Hey, happy Monday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang. Yes, welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Dispatch. Also happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief of thegaminggang.com. So welcome aboard. If this is your first time joining me, let me point out this is live stream number 580. Zoinks! So, welcome aboard. Just the name of this stream has changed. It used to be the Daily Dope. As of today, it is now the Gaming Gang Dispatch. Anyway, do want to mention that this is just casual. There's no, seriousness really here. Very often, we're just hanging out, talking about tabletop gaming. So board games, card games, role-playing games, miniatures games, you name it. If it's going on your tabletop, we're probably talking about it. It is certainly not rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination. Of course, if you are a longtime viewer, welcome back. Nothing's changed, just the name of the show. It's the same bat show, same bat channel, same, I don't know, I was going to say same dimwit, same dope, pulling the strings, but regardless, welcome aboard. Of course, tonight is Monday, November 30th, 2020. This is the final day of November. It's also Cyber Monday, which I will mention something about in just a little bit. Of course, do want to also remind you, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't yet, and if you do subscribe, ding that bell, because not only is it going to let you know when my live streams air, it'll also tell you when I upload other videos, such as my review of Mazes. Yes, the polymorph role-playing game from 9th Level Games. So my review is up for that. Check it out. A lot of fun. I really enjoyed these digests. I thought they were really, really well presented. So, by all means, check out my review. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Of course, this is a live stream. That also means chat is available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But I do my best to pay attention to chat, even though it sometimes zips by pretty quickly. So if you want to say howdy, or maybe you get a question, a comment, by all means, please chime in. I will do my best to respond. So far, we've got Clint Gibson was first out the gate saying hello tonight. Melwinius from York is in chat, as is one of our moderators, Flaming Huron himself. Nice, very cool. Let's get chat rocking and rolling. So as I mentioned, there is gang, and I've got all of, I believe, if I remember correctly, I think it's 24 different companies that are all offering special deals that are still on as of right now, including our friends over at Drive-Thru RPG and the One Bookshelf sites. So savings on hundreds of thousands of items over there, right? Maybe it's tens of thousands. I don't know. Maybe, I don't think they have hundreds of thousands. Anyway, let's jump on into the news, because arriving in March from Dr. Finn's Games comes Nanga Parbat. And I've got, whoops, what in the world? What happened there? Get that out of there. Damn, I had everything set up, and then I forgot to get rid of that like preview I had of what the thumbnail was going to look like, which actually doesn't even look like the thumbnail now. Close, but not exactly the same. All right, so let's talk about Nanga Parbat, because I've got some info about the game. The Sherpa people are known for their exquisite mountaineering skills and often use that knowledge to be effective guides to explorers on mountaineering expeditions. In this game, you're a member of the Sherpa community that is establishing base camps on Nanga Parbat for foreign explorers. While there, you'll also trap animals for food and clothing. You're going to trap clothing? Oh, I guess you're trapping animals to make clothing. In this two-player game, players take turns placing hikers on the mountain where they can capture animals and build base camps. 5 times during the game, a player might either trade in their animals or build a base camp for victory points. On a turn, a player must place their hiker in the region containing the guide, who then moves based on the placement of the hiker, thereby forcing the opponent to place their hiker in a new region. However, players may spend their captured animals to perform special actions. After 15 turns for each player, the game ends. The player with the most points wins. Nanga Parbat is for 2 players, ages 14 and up, plays in 20 to 30 minutes. It is arriving in March. You can still get this at the Kickstarter pre-order pricing of $28. Nice. Cool. Nice light kind of, I don't use the term filler games. To me, I always say it. Yeah, I'm sure you're probably tired of hearing me say this, but filler is what they put in ground beef, right? It's disgusting. It's gross. So I don't use the term filler games. I use the term wind up or wind down games. You can wind up a night of gaming or afternoon of gaming, or wind down your evening or afternoon of gaming. So this could be kind of interesting. I like the look of the game. It's got some cool different animal meeples on it as well. Moving right along, hitting stores next April from LudiCreations is On the Underground London, Berlin. And I've got the dope. The London Underground is the world's first underground passenger railway, having opened in 1863. Its 11 lines move about 5 million passengers a day to 270 stations, along 250 miles of track. The massive network of London Underground stations makes up one of the most complex transportation systems in the world. And On the Underground challenges you to develop it. Build the most successful lines, connect them to landmarks, and attract passenger traffic. In On the Underground, that just doesn't sound right, does it? I mean, it's correct, but it just sounds weird, right? On the Underground, the players built the underground lines in London or the U-Bahn lines in Berlin. Each player controls 2 to 4 different lines depending on the numbers of players. On each turn, your 4 destination cards are going to be available corresponding to stations on the map. You can take up to 4 actions. An action is either building track by placing one of your track tokens on the board, or taking a branch token. A player may use 2 branch tokens to branch out of an existing line, whereas normally lines can be extended only at the endpoints. After each player's turn, passenger token is moved along players' lines, avoiding walking as much as possible to reach 1 or 2 destinations determined at the beginning of the turn. The destination cards corresponding to the visited stations are then replaced by new ones. Then the next player takes their turn. By building track and connecting their lines to various types of stations, by building a circular line in London, or at the end of the game if they've collected tiles from specific landmark stations in Berlin, is one of 2 ways players score points. By having the passenger use their lines when moving, all destination cards that have been drawn and all players have the same number of turns, the game will end. On the Underground, London Berlin is for 2 to 5 players. Ages 14 and up, plays in around 45 to 60 minutes. You can pre-order the standard edition for $39, or you can get the deluxe edition, which is going to have these components that you're going to see in just a moment. There we go. There they are. You can get the deluxe edition with these special kind of meeples for $49. Once again, this is going to arrive next April. So I know On the Underground has been out for a while. And I believe that this is a revised edition of the game. So I believe when it first came out, it was London, and then they had some expansions. Now, this includes London and Berlin, and I think they have tweaked some of the gameplay. I am not positive, but I do think they have. All right, the Madman is in chat with us. Good to see you, Madman. Happy Monday, everybody. So we were talking about GMT Games all last week. New games on the horizon, new P500s. Well, guess what? We're going to talk about yet another P500 that's available for pre-order from GMT Games. And it is the final expansion for Space Empires 4X. Here's what you'll get with All Good Things. Space Empires All Good Things is the third and final expansion in the Space Empires series. It is designed to complete the game and add even more replayability and options. Note that this expansion contains no board. Ownership of the original game, Space Empires 4X, is required to play. Ownership of Space Empires Close Encounters and Space Empires Replicators is also recommended. Since this is the final expansion, all the rules and scenarios over 4 different games will be compiled in one place. It's going to include refined solo and co-op rules, a new alternate empire, 2 copies, not as different as the Replicators. It has the same economics as a base empire, but some of the ship classes have different stats and abilities. Some of the ship classes are also completely replaced with new classes. Also allows you to play Space Empires with as many as 6 players without Replicators, or a 7-player game with them. Even in a 2-player game, you can now play it 5 different ways. Base Empire versus Base Empire, Base Empire versus New Empire, Base Empire versus Replicators, New Empire versus New Empire, and New Empire versus Replicators. Also includes variable but balanced home systems. Everyone has the same home system for balanced reasons. However, you will never know for sure exactly what will be in your home system from game to game. There's also 30 or so scenario cards, and 1 or 2 could be flipped to change the overall galaxy conditions for the game. A couple of these are from the scenario book, but most are new. There's also missions, which are resource cards that can't just be played, but require you to complete something on the map to gain a larger benefit. More work, but more reward. There's deep space planetary attributes. The NPA planets in deep space will now have a bit of personality. Some will be harder or easier to take. Some will really be worth fighting over, as they will have different abilities and bonuses. There's crew cards. Notable crewmen that bring bonuses will be on some of your ships. Sometimes they benefit just one ship, sometimes a group, and sometimes a fleet. There are 2 new facilities which are added to complete the facilities game. And much, much more. Extra cards of every type, star bases, defense satellites, cyber armor, new terrain types, additional terrain to support larger scenarios, and of course a 4-inch box to give you more storage options and more. Space Empires with All Good Things is for 1 to 6 players. 1 to 7 if you've got replicators. It's for ages 12 and up, plays in 3 or more hours. You can reserve a copy of Space Empires All Good Things right now for the P500 price of $65. It is going to carry an expected MSRP of $95 when it releases, which will be, of course, later in 2021. This has made the cut. Interestingly enough, I saw that GMT had mentioned that it had made the cut with a lot fewer orders than they usually will indicate. So I think it was at about 600. I think it was at 600 orders. And GMT said, oh, yeah, it's made the cut. We've talked about it before. Even though it's P500, 500 orders does not normally get a game into production from GMT. It's usually about 800, 750 to 900. All depends on what the game is, if they feel that they're going to do well in retail with this as well. So we've got my good buddy, Scott Weagle. My high school friend, Scott Weagle, is in chat with us. A Gray Day has arrived in chat. He's saying Space Empires All Good Things is an auto buy. Yeah, Space Empires is a really good game. It is an excellent game. And the funny thing is, it's a relatively crunchy game, but it's not super, super complex. And it was actually very different when it first came out as far as GMT Games went. GMT Games, they had a few different non-conflict sim games, but they didn't have anything like Space Empires. And yes, I think Jim Crome has done a really good job with this as well. So I do notice that we've got, looks like, who else has just popped in here that I missed? Jorge Rodriguez is in chat. Good to see you, Jorge. Thanks for swinging on in. So I wish I had more images I could share of this upcoming expansion, but this is it. This is all that's floating around out there. These are actually 2 playtest shots from the game's designer, and it's 6-player games that they're showing here as well. So Melwinia says Space Empires is great, as is the Close Encounters expansion and the Replicators one. Got all 3. The Solo Bot is in the Replicators expansion. Yes, if I remember right, I think that's true. That is it. So A Great A says 10 years, 2021 for Space Empires. Yeah. I think Space Empires 4X was one of the first GMT games I actually reviewed. Or at least in the first year of doing GMT stuff. Nice. Very cool. So we got Great A says, I bet Jim Crone has had enough Space Empires. I don't know. I don't know about that. You know, it's actually a pretty good game too. And I want to say Jim Crone's the designer of it as well. Maybe I'm wrong. But Talon is also a pretty interesting science fiction kind of fleets battling. Pretty cool game, and a bit different, not just, hex encounter stuff. So nice. Although I have to say, the first thing that popped in my head when I saw the name of this expansion is the finale of Star Trek The Next Generation. All good things must come to an end. But not the news, because I've still got a couple of news pieces to go. So new from Trollhalla Press is the combined Monsters 2nd edition role-playing game and the toughest dungeon in the world. I've got the scoop. A combined set of the new 2nd edition Monsters rules and the new toughest dungeon in the world. This combo version also includes the extra material from the hardback edition, the Murder at the Ruptured Troll short story, the Ruptured Troll GM Adventure plus maps, and the Lost Tomb of the Bat Trolls mini GM Adventure. All done by Ken St. Andre, Steve Crompton, and Phil Longmire. I think that's it. I think that's how it's pronounced, Longmire. Or maybe it's just misspelling. I don't know. There's also additional bonus art, scans of the foil hardcovers, the original full color covers of the 2 books, and a Kickstarter baker list. I think they mean backer list, not baker list. Monsters, Monsters. This second edition of the rules retains much of its original appeal and structure, but with all new art and new options like stunting and monster chaos factor. The new rules also list 49 monster kindreds that you can play, gives you their dice modifiers, and now each has a special power unique to its kindred. Each monster is described in a separate section. It's also better organized and easier to use. For example, now the monsters are separated into humanoid and non-humanoid types. There are 2 different types of character sheets, one that includes portraits that you can add. There's a spell book, weapon and armor list, new abilities and chaos factor, 18 cutout full color standing figures, and much more. And to really cap off the rules, we're also including in the book a brand new 26-page Monster GM adventure in the ruined dwarven city of Haku Sentai, filled with treasures, danger, and mysteries to solve. Download your copy of Monsters today. The toughest dungeon in the world is a solitary adventure that can be played with Monsters or Tunnels and Trolls. Written by Ken St. Andre, it was first published in 1980 by Judges Guild. Now, 40 years later, Ken has updated and enhanced this classic solo adventure, bringing it back to life in new and exciting ways. Artist Phil Longmire. See, it is Phil Longmire. See, they misspelled his name. They misspelled his name early. This is sell sheet info from Drive-Thru, and it had Phil Longmire. It's like, what? Anyway, artist Phil Longmire, without the at the end, and Steve Crompton have enhanced this solo adventure with new illustrations and graphics more suitable for this wild monster mash solitaire adventure. This expanded PDF of the hardcover edition is now 135 pages long. It will keep any player busy for a lot of adventure in caverns and tunnels deep below Troll World. What makes this the toughest dungeon, and what or who is the Lord of Shadows? Hint, it's not me. It dwells in the depths waiting for you. Will you avoid its power or be corrupted by it? Can you conquer this difficult solo? And will you find the ruined dwarven city that lays beyond the caverns? If you're brave enough, bring your toughest character into the caverns of hell. The 135-page PDF of the combined Monsters second edition and the toughest dungeon in the world can be had in PDF over at Drive-Thru RPG for $17.99. Ka-ching! I have a soft spot for Tunnels and Trolls. I have a soft spot for Flying Buffalo Games, although Rick Loomis did pass away. It was a little more than a year ago, which that was sad to see. But Tunnels and Trolls is kind of like the second or third fantasy role-playing game that was ever released. Monsters utilizes essentially the same mechanics as Tunnels and Trolls, except your player characters are monsters. So you get to see the dungeon delving from a different angle. I've always heard good things about it. So very nice. Very cool. Also want to point out that I did hear that Ken St. Andre had been in the hospital for most of November, and I believe he is now home. So well wishes, and Let's hope Ken St. Andre is doing much better now. So Scott says that he thinks he still has some Tunnels and Trolls in his storage boxes. Yes, Scott's got a lot of the old gaming stuff when we were in high school. I wish I had any of mine. I don't have any. I don't even have any dice from back then. At least my best friend, Elliot Miller, he still has some dice. And he actually has a few games, a handful, not many. So, also, Talon is, yes, it is designed by Jim Crone. I thought it was. Yes, because there is, as a grade A points out, there's a way for you to combine Talon with Space Empires for your fleet combat. Grade A says, the toughest dungeon is any Tunnel and Troll solo book, which has numerous choices that end like this. Go to entry 128. Entry 128, you died. Yes. I will point out now, if I remember correctly, and I might be way off base, and I know we're talking monsters, but to me, Tunnels and Trolls, monsters, kind of, I don't want to say, there's two sides of the same coin, I guess I'll say. But with Tunnels and Trolls, their mechanics, even though the game came out, I think it was 79. I think it might have been 1979. And of course, I've said this before. Rick Loomis was actually the person who coined the phrase role-playing game. But even though the game came out in 79, the mechanics are actually relatively modern. They have a modern vibe to it. They don't, like when you're reading through, like, say, OD&D, if you ever have a chance to sit there and read it. Scott Weigel says 1975. Holy cow. That's even earlier than I thought. Oh, it's kind of funny because I always forget. It was, 78 when the Player's Handbook came out for AD&D? It's like, I always think it's like, I always feel like it's later than that, but it's not. I think it's 78, 77, 78, something like that. So a Grade A says that they have TNT on their shelf and believe that Ken lives in Arizona. He might, because I know Rick Loomis and Flying Buffalo Games were in Scottsdale, Arizona. Because when I first started the gaming gang, I bounced around the idea of maybe interviewing him. And then it turned out that I heard through the grapevine that essentially the company was just in his garage. It's like, well, that'd be a little weird. Anyhow, moving right along, let's move on to our last news piece, because also available in PDF over at DriveThruRPG is one-shots of the Reichland for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. I've got the skinny from Cubicle 7 Entertainment. 5 rapid-fire adventures in the grim and perilous Old World. One-shots of the Reichland offers 5 short adventures designed for a single frantic session of play. Each is designed to be easily slotted into an ongoing campaign or played as a standalone adventure. One-shots of the Reichland includes Come Drown With Me. Come drown with me, come drown. All right. The business of navigating locks is tedious enough, but to find yourself leaving a lock only to arrive back where you started, something is afoot at Heartskleen Lock, or perhaps beneath it. There's the Lock Inn. A quiet night at an inn takes a sharp turn when an enthusiastic witch hunter and his mob barricade everyone inside and demand that the heretics be sent out, or they'll burn the place to the ground with everyone inside. Last call, anybody? The Siege of Wallen Temple. A father's mistake returns to haunt the good folk of a sleepy Reichland village. crowded inside the stout walls of a temple to Sigmar, how long can they hope to hold out against the ravening horde outside? And then there's Curd, your enthusiasm. Not curb, curd. An evening of fine wine and victuals ends in disaster and death. And somehow, it seems that the cheese might be to blame. Wow, is that like straight out of Monty Python's Meaning of Life? But I didn't eat the souffle or whatever the hell it was. The fish. Is it the fish? I'm sure somebody out there is going to remember that. So Flaming Heron says, had to take a look at what the skinny was. The dope I got, but skinny was new. Never heard that term before, Flaming Heron? Yeah, here's the skinny. See, now I don't have to say, here's the dope on everything. I can say, oh, here's the news. Here's the latest. Here's the skinny. There's also a sheep and wolf. Oh, yeah, we finished up Curd Your Enthusiasm. A sheep in wolf's clothing. An injured noble is dutifully cared for by the farmers he holds responsible. But is there a limit to hospitality? These adventures require the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay rulebook to enjoy. Each adventure makes use of a location from buildings of the Reichland and includes a location map from that publication. You don't need buildings of the Reichland to play these adventures, but the extra details found within might be useful to some groups. The 36-page one-shots of the Reichland PDF is available at DriveThruRPG for $4.99. Nice. I love the fact that Cubicle 7 Entertainment continues to support just about all the role-playing games. Except for, I guess Doctor Who hasn't really had much come out for it, but they're usually working on the Doctor supplements. But yeah, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, Soulbound, well, I should say Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, Age of Sigmar, Soulbound. We've got Wrath and Glory, the Warhammer 40K. Sweet. I wonder, I should reach out and talk to Dominic McDowell. Ask if they still have plans to release like a Lovecraftian horror role-playing game. Because I know that was kind of their game plan when they and Chaosium went their separate ways. And when they wrapped up like World War Cthulhu and things like that. I don't know. I have no idea. In fact, when I interviewed Dom last time, I forgot to ask him. So Grade A says there are about 30 Tunnels and Trolls adventures you can run on your iPhone currently. Melwina says that they are not a fan of iPhones, not a fan of Android. So what do you use? Just a landline? You don't use a mobile phone, Melwina? How does that work? You're using a Windows phone? I'm just teasing. Melwina is probably listening to tunes on his Zune. Jorge Rodriguez says that he likes flip phones. So Melwina says, so it brings him to the point. How is my, what the hell? What is it called? Is it One Touch? I always forget the damn name of the phone company. I think it is One Touch. The 7 Pro. So Melwina is asking, how is my phone? I love it. I think it's awesome. And I have had Android and I have Apple devices. So in fact, I basically used my iPhone 6 Plus as my audiobook, like for all my audiobooks. And then I had an Android smartphone. Nothing, too fantastic. And that's why I was like, you know what? iOS is fine. But I'm not necessarily like, oh, everything's got to be Apple, I'm streaming this on a AMD Ryzen 9. So I don't even have to have Intel. So, yeah, I love the phone. I think it's great. Andrew Del Russo, welcome aboard. I believe this might be Andrew's first visit. So, Andrew says that they love Cubicle 7. Yes, Cubicle 7 Entertainment. I can say I have some real good friends in the industry at Cubicle 7, and they always take care of me. So, Grade A says Mel's on a satellite phone. Melwinia says they're still using a BlackBerry. Using the old Razor. Viper Dave is in chat. Good to see you, Viper Dave. Says, howdy y'all. Yes, the dispatch has launched. So Andrew says they usually pop in when I'm covering Cubicle 7 stuff. Well, my apologies for not remembering you've been here before. Try to remember all these games. Jinx knew what to tell you. All right, anyway, once again, as a reminder, Cyber Monday is still going on here in the U.S., even if you don't live outside the U.S. I should say, even if you do live outside the U.S., you still have time to save money from a lot of places. So I was just talking about Drive-Thru RPG. As an example, they are wrapping up their Cyber Monday sale, 25% off just about everything that they have, everything that they sell, tens of thousands of PDFs. And of course, the Gaming Gang and thus the Dispatch are affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to swing over to, say, Drive-Thru RPG, please visit thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a little portion of that sale. Look at how close my fingers are together. Little portion. All those nickels, dimes, and quarters, and I'm not joking, it is nickels, dimes, and quarters, really do add up. They really, really do. We got a lot of people out there who are kind enough to utilize the links over on thegaminggang.com. So much appreciated. Thank you very, very much. So Grade A's asking, battery hasn't died yet? I'm not sure if a Grade A's asking if the BlackBerry's battery hasn't died. Flaming Heron says about 13 hours or more for most retailers. Flaming also says sending a few nickels and quarters my way today. I was going to say this month has been really, there's been a lot. There has been a lot. And I'm sure, you know, the Black Friday sale had something to do with that. But I should point out, I've had people ask, how many people visit the Gaming Gang in a day? And I only track unique visitors. If you're not familiar with, you know, how like SEO and things like that work, a unique visitor is counted once per month for their visit. So a unique visitor, somebody could visit your website 20 times in a month. They're only going to count once. They're going to count once the first time they hit your site, unless they clean out their cache in their browser. Then that will count them again. But on average, the Gaming Gang pulls in a little over just a hair on average. About 4,050 unique visitors per day. That's the average all the way across. So some days are better than others, right? So Sundays tend to be kind of quiet. Mondays tend to be a lot more. So, but yeah, I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. And I've said it before. The Gaming Gang pulls in over 1 million unique visitors a year. So that's something. They're not watching this show. They're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel. But they are hanging out. So Melwinius is also pointing out that the Conan bundle is still up over at Humble Bundle. I haven't mentioned it because I got to be honest, Conan has been up on it's been on Humble Bundle quite a few times. It's been up on Bundle of Holding quite a few times. So I'm kind of. Ibram has joined us in chat. Good to see you, Ibram. All right. 1,000,000 is a lot of people. Yes, it is. Nowhere near like Dice Tower numbers or Board Game Geek sort of numbers, but hey, I'm not going to sneeze at it. It's about what, 1.3, something like that. I don't know. It's been a while since I actually went and dug through like every day's logs. I have better things to do. Anyway, once again, do want to point out that if you haven't checked out my review for Mazes, and if you're into old school fantasy role-playing games, definitely check out the review, because I gotta say, this is really cool. There's some things with this I don't believe I would run the game as written. There's a few, and I talked about it in the review. But I also found out, if you have watched the review, a couple of things I was curious about. One is that because these are zine sized, so they're around 50 pages each. In fact, all 4 books clock in at like 197 pages. But they Ninth Level Games kickstarted a series of zines. It's 5 zines that are going to have more Mazes stuff in it. And I talked to Heather O'Neill, who I believe, I might be wrong, I believe she's the wife of the game designer, Chris O'Neill, or sister, I don't know. And she had said that those should be out in the first quarter of next year. And I think it's through a Kickstarter, but they're looking at putting all these 4 zines for Mazes together as a hardcover and kickstarting it. So definitely check it out. Somebody had commented and they said, "Oh, this doesn't look like a very good value. Old School Essentials is way better." I got nothing against Old School Essentials. So I have peeked through, I think it was the first book, and I like it. I think it's nicely presented. But here's the thing. Old School Essentials doesn't give you anything new. All it is basic and expert D&D cleaned up, presented with some new artwork. So it's got new formatting, new editing, and that's it. Now, I believe there's some adventures and stuff that have come out for OSE, but the core itself for OSE is just D&D. They haven't changed anything. Like Swords and Wizardry is a retro clone, but there have been tweaks. Prime example is Swords and Wizardry, if I remember correctly. Now, remember, I look at a lot of role-playing games. If I remember correctly, I think Swords and Wizardry has 1 saving roll. Whereas, of course, D&D has, like breath weapon, death. Swords and Wizardry has 1, and it's based on your character class and your level. So even Swords and Wizardry has tweaked some things. Old School Essentials is just a cleaned up basic and expert, which was Metzger, wasn't it? Metzger. I always forget how to pronounce his name. All right, so Melwina says, I think Lamentations of Flame Princess also runs that format. Are we talking about like zines? Because I got to be honest, I have never actually seen a physical copy of a Lamentations of the Flame Princess core book or anything. I usually see it. So Melwina, let's see. All right. So sorry, I'm just checking to see what's going on. So Ibram says all RPGs should be zine sized. Hot take. Well, I gotta say, there are a lot of game companies out there who are going to disagree with you on that. Anyway, so a grade A, I think a grade A is talking about, they're either talking about mazes or they're talking about OSE, but they've yet to get it to the table over basic fantasy. There you go, basic fantasy. Another example of, now, if I remember correctly, I think basic fantasy, which is free, and I think if you want to get an actual physical core book, I think it's $5. Because I do believe that the gentleman behind that just basically sells them at cost. That is essentially advanced D&D, kind of cleaned up, but I think it's kind of the same. So Melwina says that they looked up Maze, but it's not available at their store. Yeah. Unfortunately, it looks like you got to get it from 9th level games. So, and if I remember correctly, I think Melwinius is outside the U.S. So, all right. Anyway, let me grab a sip here. That's it for the news and me kind of pontificating. Yep. So Grade A says, yes, basic fantasy is free, like I said, and it is based on AD&D. And there is tons of stuff out there for basic fantasy. And I have taken a peek at the like the core book for it. I thought it was really nicely done. I saw the PDF. I didn't see the physical book. We are probably going to start seeing more role-playing game releases from smaller companies because, for one, I want to share a little more love for smaller companies. That's why you even notice, even with the news a little bit, I've been kind of including stuff on every show from companies you may not be aware of. And I'm not overly, familiar with either. So anyway. So if you're wondering when my review for Dune Imperium is going to arrive, tomorrow, it's done. It's uploaded to YouTube. I will have that in the morning. So you'll be able to check it out in the morning. Give you kind of a high level how to play and share my thoughts about it. So you'll have to wait to find out. I think there are a few reviews out there already. So I'm not giving anything away. Not giving anything away. So, all right. That is it for tonight's show. So there we go. The first episode of the Gaming Gang Dispatch in the can, even though it's stream number 580. So only thing different was the name. But once again, do want to mention, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell. Because if you do, it'll let you know not only when the dispatch streams live, it'll also tell you when I upload other videos, such as tomorrow's review for Dune Imperium from Direwolf Digital and Legendary Pictures. All right, those of you out there who watched live, thank you very much. Always appreciate you tuning in, hanging out, keeping me company. So I'm not just babbling on and on and on to a camera with nobody watching. But then again, I do also know there are a lot of people out there who don't have an opportunity to watch the show live. Maybe you're even watching on Memorex after the fact. Thank you very much as well. Always do appreciate anybody who takes some time out to watch any of the videos here at the Gaming Gang channel. All right, so also want to mention, when you're not watching videos at the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And as I wrap up all of my videos during the never-ending pandemic, here's hoping all of you out there are being smart and staying safe. See you tomorrow. Oh, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, if you'd like to subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel, by all means, click right here. And if you'd like to check out one of our recent live streams, click right up top. And if you want to roll the dice and see what the algorithm for YouTube recommends, click right here. And of course, thank you once again for watching. And gang, please stay safe and